I was had y'all, your boy Rico from Street Scores, and now I gotta come with a full Commanders versus Ravens preview. It's the day before the game. It's the day before I live stream the game as well. I'm gonna be live streaming all four quarters, beginning to end. Monday night, the game starts at 8 p.m. I'm gonna start streaming at 7:30. But today, as in August 20th, the night before the game, we got to take a look at the 10 most important things that you need to be watching for as a Commanders fan going into this Commanders versus Ravens preseason game, week 2. We have the 10. There's a lot of things you could be looking for. There's dozens of things you could definitely pay attention to, especially if you want to get really specific. Really turns into like hundreds of thousands. But I have like 10 main things that keep this in the back of your mind. If you need to write them down, I had this video to the side during the live stream while I'm live streaming doing play-by-play analysis of everything that's going on in the game. If you need to do that, just make sure to do what you got to do to have these 10 things in mind, because I'm telling you, you'll enjoy the game experience more. You'll have more to take from it. Plus, if as many people as possible are watching for these 10 things, granted, I may miss some things. So if y'all happen to see some things, y'all can help me out as well. So these are the 10 main things we need to focus on for this preseason game, because winning would be nice, but these 10 things matter more specifically, especially heading into this regular season against the Arizona Cardinals. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Again, after yesterday, August 19th, training camp is technically over. With the fans and all of that, we'll have no more access to the practices, so we'll stop getting all of those updates, the position group breakdowns that I do, all of the clips I upload. I mean, I think at best we'll get some injury updates depending on the day, and even then we may not get that some days. So now it's about to be a pretty dry time as far as Commanders news go, but I have so many videos I still need to do. Rookie film sessions, Rico reports of a lot of random interesting stats and facts. I know y'all typically love the Rico reports where it's just extremely random and we're bouncing from topic to topic for like 20-30 minutes, and it's just the most random stuff you would never think of. Also, I'm still working on a full breakdown of all of the new sponsorships that the Commanders have gained. Well, one of them they technically regained, because one of those sponsorships left in 2022. Like, I can't do it anymore since Josh Harris bought the team, came right back. So I have so much content to still work on. I still have plenty of reasons to still come out with like 2 to 3 videos a day. So stay tuned without further ado, and make sure you pull up for that live stream versus the Ravens tomorrow night, Monday night as well. Let's get it.
You tell your family you can be a commander.
All right, so number one, this punt return competition is going to affect the wide receiver position, because I'm assuming whoever wins the punt return competition is automatically getting one of the only 6 slots we have available. And again, just in case if you haven't been here, for a lot of the videos and live streams we've had, I've told y'all it's an automatic 4 lock. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, and Bieniemy Brown. After that, we're more than likely only keeping 6 receivers. Typically, you keep 6 receivers maximum. I mean, you could even make an excuse for maybe even keeping 5, depending on what our receiving group looks like. But nah, this team is so talented and so deep at receiver that I've already talked about with my worries as far as like what happened this past week in training camp, especially the joint practices and things like that against the Ravens. We're going to end up cutting a couple of receivers. They're going to go somewhere else and ball out. That's just how talented and deep our receiving group is. But again, we have 4 locks, 2 spots open, and maybe like technically 8-9 guys competing for those last 2 spots. Now, there's a clear difference in like the first 4 or 5 guys compared to the bottom 4 or 5 guys as far as trying to get those last 2 spots. But still, either way, with all of that background dialogue, I want to get to the point that one of those spots, again, is more than likely going to be reserved for whoever wins this punt return competition between Dax Milne and Kazmir Allen, which leaves only 1 spot open for the other 8 guys. So basically there's 5 spots already secured. We just only have 2 guys as an option for one of those spots, and then the other 7 guys are fighting for that last spot basically, which is just insane, because again, we're gonna end up cutting 2 or 3 guys that are gonna end up going somewhere else and being very productive for their respective teams. It sucks, man. It's a great problem to have, but still a problem nonetheless. But getting back to the punt return competition, again, Dax Milne versus Kazmir Allen. Dax Milne was your starting punt returner all of last year, and he did a pretty decent job. Even though I'm a guy that's been actively rooting for somebody to replace him, at the very least, he's safe. We literally won the Bears game because of a muff punt that the Bears had. Ron Rivera saw it with his own eyes, live in action. That made Dax Milne's stock rise. And then I believe literally the week after that, the immediate next game that we played against the Packers, they muffed a punt. And you can argue we won that game because of that muff punt as well, because we ended up scoring points off of both of the muff punts from the Bears and the Packers respectively. And both of those games were close. And so Ron Rivera in his eyes, like, oh my God, at the very least, Dax Milne doesn't do that. That's why he was our starting punt returner last year. He's safe. Now, I still don't love his decision making as far as let the ball go behind him or should you fair catch it. It seems like he fair catches it within the 10, but then when he's at like the 20, he lets the ball go behind him and then it rolls to within our 5-yard line. He just has a bad tendency of that. But at the very least, you don't have to worry about him muffing punts, and that's like the biggest no-no. Enters Kazmir Allen, where so far he's looked safe in practice, in preseason games. Well, only one Browns preseason game. We'll see what he looks like against the Ravens. So far, he looks like he has the safer Dax Milne. But then on top of that, that explosion that a lot of us have wanted, they can actually potentially change some field position. And Kazmir Allen seems to have that as well. Don't look at his testing. He tested very poorly. If you just go look at his tape at UCLA and everything he's done so far this offseason since he's become an undrafted free agent for the Commanders, he looks like a better version of Dax Milne, a more explosive version of Dax Milne. And that's what I've been asking for. He's like our best hope of getting like another DeAndre Carter type of person. He may not be just as fast as DeAndre Carter, but he seems like he's safer than DeAndre Carter, but also faster than Dax Milne. So I'm really excited about Kazmir Allen's potential. But what makes things really weird is the fact that Dax Milne is hurt right now. We don't know the severity of the injury. We don't know if he's just going to brush it off and play Monday night against the Ravens like nothing happened, or if he's out for like a few weeks or months. We just haven't gotten an update on it. So I'm really curious as to when we go into this Ravens game, that's going to be the first Dax Milne update we've gotten since he got hurt in practice yesterday. Is he good to go? And say he isn't. Does that mean Kazmir Allen wins the job by default? I don't want that. I want Kazmir Allen to earn that job, because if he wins the job just simply because Dax Milne got hurt, how do we know that he's ready? I mean, everything I've seen so far, he looks ready, but I want Kazmir Allen to beat Dax Milne while Dax Milne is 100% healthy and 100% on his game, because like I always say, if you supersede the guy that was previously starting, that means you got better than them. I don't want for Kazmir Allen to win by default, because that doesn't necessarily say that he's better than Dax Milne. It just says that he's available. So I want him to win and earn that starting job. So I'm a little worried about that. I hope Dax Milne is 100%, and I just hope that Kazmir Allen goes out there in the Ravens game and earns that starting punt return job, and we put this to rest. So far in practices the past couple of weeks, even before Dax Milne got hurt, he was receiving a lot of the reps for punt return. And I mean, you can see that one of two ways. Is that because he needs them, or because he is the starting punt returner already? They just haven't announced it. I don't know. But again, 6 wide receiver spots, 4 are locks. One of them is pretty much being held for whoever wins the starting punt return job between Kazmir Allen and Dax Milne. The other 7 guys are fighting for the last spot. And that's just tough, man. Mitchell Tinsley catches everything, dog. And speaking of Kazmir Allen, he's had some pretty bad drops against the Ravens in joint practices. And then on top of all of that, you still have Bryson Tremaine, you have Marcus Kemp, you have Byron Pringle that makes plays. Marcus Kemp brings like 3 traits that no other receiver in this receiving group brings. Like, that's a guy that if you lose him, it feels like you're losing 3 players. I mean, this is absolutely, and Mitchell Tinsley can easily be the guy that if we cut him, he's going to go to another team and at the very least be one of their top 3 receivers and have a really productive year. I can easily see him going out there getting 400, 500 yards this season just off of how he already looks. He's been balling against the ones. He had 2 catches in 1 drive against the starters yesterday in practice, against like Emmanuel Forbes and Benjamin St. Juste, Kevin McCrow, Derek Forrest, and all of those guys getting open and catching passes. Like, this guy, I mean, I don't know how this is going to happen. This is a very difficult decision, but the main thing I want to point out is that the punt return competition is going to have a heavy influence on that. And then before we leave here, I know I've talked about this for a pretty long time, and we still have 9 more points to go. But this is a very in-depth point. That's why I brought it up first, because I feel like this is a very underrated thing that a lot of people may not pay attention to going into this preview, going into this game against the Ravens. That's why I break these things down in these preview videos, because this may be something that people overthink. They don't really care about. They pay attention to the more exciting things like quarterback and defense, line, and corners and stuff like like that. This punt return thing is very serious. I'm telling y'all, it can make or break games. Field positioning is huge, man. It's huge. The Commanders are usually starting with bad field positioning because our defense, even though it is great and suffocating, we don't get turnovers. And then on the punt return side, Dax Milne was automatic fair catch. And then on the offensive side, between the offensive line, quarterback, and Scott Turner, we weren't moving the ball very much too often either way. Now, the thing that does concern me about Kazmir Allen, he was a starting kick returner for UCLA, but not a starting punt returner. So it makes you go, okay, because if I'm a college, I'm doing everything I can to get the most explosive kick returner as our punt returner. What is it about punt returner that you just weren't able to handle in college and you think that you can handle at the NFL level? So far, he's looked really good doing it, but when you check his background, when you run the Carfax on him, you're like, wait a minute. Your history looks a little foggy right now. What's going on there, Kaz? So we got to look into that, but I just hope he goes out there against the Ravens and balls out, and then we don't have to have any more worries about it. Moving on to point number 2, and we're already almost 10 minutes into the video. I apologize. Who's starting at left guard? That's a big one. It looks like right now, as long as Sadiq Charles is fully healthy, they're going to keep throwing him in there starting left guard every chance they get. If he's even 80% healthy, go start at left guard. Against the Ravens in joint practice, at one point they put him in at left guard. He got hurt, and then he ended up not being able to come back for the rest of the day. As soon as we get back to practicing amongst ourselves after the joint practice, I think that was yesterday in practice, they threw him right back in there starting left guard. They just keep forcing it with this guy. I don't know if they're just doing that to see if he can stay healthy to test him, or if they just truly want him to start at left guard over Chris Paul. I'm assuming it's the latter. Maybe it's a mix of both, but it just looks like they really, really want Sadiq Charles to be our starting left guard over Chris Paul. And I'm not understanding it because I think Chris Paul can be just as good, if not maybe even have a higher ceiling, just athleticism wise. And y'all know I'm big on Sadiq Charles. Y'all can go back years ago when we first got him. I kept screaming and slamming the table that, hey man, this guy has a lot of talent. He should have been drafted way higher than he was. But ever since then, he just keeps getting hurt. It's not the talent for Sadiq Charles at all. It's not the talent at all. I think he could be a really good starting left guard for us if injuries didn't exist. But the problem is they do. Chris Paul, even though he's only started one game for us, so far, the 2 off seasons he's been with us, I haven't seen or heard about him getting even the slightest banged up that I can remember. And I mean, even like going into last offseason, the preseason games he participated in last year, the preseason game where he was really good against the Browns this past game. I mean, he looked way better than Andrew Wiley out there. You could argue he looked better than Charles Leno and Nick Gates to the left and right of him. The only offensive lineman you can easily argue had a better preseason game against the Browns than him was Samuel Cosmi. And that's it. And I think Samuel Cosmi has all pro level potential, like Brandon Sheriff level athleticism and ceiling type of thing. So I'm a big believer in Samuel Cosmi, wherever you want to play him on the offensive line. But Chris Paul, man, I think he has maybe not that same level of ceiling, but I think his ceiling is very high. And most importantly, I think his floor is fairly high. He looked really good against the Cowboys week 18 last year. He looked really good against the Browns in this preseason game we just played, where you can't even necessarily exactly say the same for our entire offensive line. And then he's looked really good in preseason. Every time they ask him to go out there, even in the joint practices when he did go out there with the starters, he looked like he belonged. And I'm just not exactly understanding why we're still forcing this Sadiq Charles thing. Maybe he has a slightly higher floor right now. And Sadiq Charles does have an underrated ceiling. But my whole logic is, and I've talked about this in several videos and live streams already, if you can't depend on him to stay healthy, just think of it right now as a Commanders fan. Do you see Sadiq Charles staying healthy enough to start 17 games for you this season? If not, why not just go ahead and start the guy in Chris Paul who you feel like has a better chance of achieving that, because your best ability is availability. Who's the guy that gives you the best opportunity to potentially actually start a full 17 game season, so we're not out here just playing musical chairs with the offensive line? If that's if that's Chris Paul, my fault, go ahead and start him now. Go ahead. Why not? I mean, you don't want to get to a point where we're just like week 8, Sadiq Charles ends up getting hurt, because I really hope it's not, knock on wood and everything, but it just feels so inevitable with him at this point. It always seems like it's something. And would you prefer for Chris Paul to start week 8 after already being named the starter since training camp, preseason week 2 against the Ravens, regular season games 1 through 7 already has that chemistry with the guys to the left and right of him, with Sam Howell, with Eric Bieniemy already knows his weaknesses and strengths because he's been our starting offensive lineman, our left guard, for the past 8 weeks in the regular season? Or do you want him to go out there and week 8 is his first time starting all year, and we have must-win games coming up, and you just hope that you can plug and play them immediately? Man, go ahead and put my boy Chris Paul out there, dog. I ain't gonna lie. And then on top of that, Sadiq Charles is the better backup because I see Sadiq Charles as a guy that could play tackle and guard in an emergency. And with his injury history and stuff like that, he seems more just like a break glass in case of emergency guy anyway. Chris Paul, on the other hand, I see him as a pure guard in my opinion. Some people see him as he could play tackle as well, but I just haven't necessarily seen it at a high enough level yet. Whereas Sadiq Charles, when he has played tackle, when he has played guard, he's looked good. He just can't stay healthy. So Sadiq Charles looks like the better backup, and Chris Paul looks like the better guard. What are we doing? The better starter. What are we doing right now? And then moving on to point number 3. Hey, man, like I said, those last 2 wide receiver spots competition is huge. And like I already broke down talking about the punt return competition, even ignoring that, again, technically, assuming that we already have 5 spots filled because Dax Milne and Casimir Allen are fighting for one themselves. They're in a tier of their own. Those last 7 guys fighting for that one spot. Like I already said, Mitchell Tinsley. Man, we ended up not keeping him for any reason. He's going to go somewhere and ball out and be at least a top 3 receiver. I wouldn't be surprised if he works his way up to being a team's second option because he has that much talent. He makes every catch. He's getting open. He looks like a very nuanced receiver, and that's really all you need. He looks like an accurate quarterback's best friend. And then on top of all of that, you have Bryson Tremaine. I already said Marcus Kemp. I mean, the things he brings to this team as a special teams blocker, you could argue he's the best easily on this team. The height. Him and Bryson Tremaine are our only receivers taller than 6'1", and they're both like 6'5" or taller. Outside of the tight end group, they're our only big time receivers. Ron Rivera had some quote about Bieniemy Brown, even though he's 6'1". He plays like a big time receiver that can go up and make jump ball catches. Yeah. But how about just keep a 6'5" guy that you know for a fact can and should do that because he's 4'5", even 6 inches taller than the corner covering him any given play? How about that? How about we just do that? I already know Bryson Tremaine, even though he's made plays all camp, and I've been rooting for him since we brought him in as a drafted free agent because I love his tape from Stanford. I feel like Marcus Kemp, if anything, would get the nod over him, so we might as well not even include him in the competition because Marcus Kemp, even though I feel like Bryson Tremaine has a way higher ceiling at receiver, again, Marcus Kemp brings a very high level of special team skill set to his tool belt with him, and just nobody else in this room can say that. I mean, Casimir Allen and Dax Milne as far as punt returns, Byron Pringle as far as kick returns, but nobody's doing what Marcus Kemp does as far as blocking on special teams. I'm telling you, Casimir Allen wins the starting punt to return job. Marcus Kemp blocking for him. We're gonna have some really good returns out there. I'm telling y'all that now. Again, go look at that Super Bowl game, that final return that Kadarius Toney had against the Eagles from the Chiefs, man, to put that game away. Look, just watch Marcus Kemp the whole play, blocking everybody, making it so easy for Kadarius Toney to make that return. He made that. Marcus Kemp was that return more than anybody else. It's crazy. And then, I mean, you just have so many receivers that are fighting for a job. They've been doing everything they can to make a name for themselves in practice. We're going to end up letting some receivers go that end up going elsewhere and not only making the team, but being impactful, I'm quite sure, within year 1. Number 4, the new competition has emerged. And I knew our defensive line was really good, but now the depth is definitely in question. We went from, I mean, yeah, we got some guys, you know what I'm saying? We need to definitely bring some guys in just in case we lose Chase Young and or Montez Sweat after this season. But now 2023 wise, and I don't want to even think about 2024 because it's just a sad thought right now trying to keep all of these 2024 free agents on this team right now. But thank goodness Sam Howell's on a rookie contract that could help make things easier for us. But boy, it's ugly. Either way though, 2023 wise, we were looking at KJ Henry just a couple of weeks ago, and y'all know me, as soon as we drafted him, I was like, he has the talent to be our 3rd best edge rusher, only behind Chase Young and Montez Sweat. I think he should be like above James Smith-Williams and guys like that by the time the offseason ends and we get to the regular season. And then he started to flash in camp and everything. And then you already know John Ridgeway, what he did last year. We already know what Fedarian Mathis should be able to do, but he's kind of like the Sadiq Charles of defensive linemen right now. It's starting to look like. Who knows? He's in a boot last time I saw. Maybe he's healthier than we think, but I don't know when it comes to him. F.L. Bada and J. Smith-Williams can play outside and inside. J. Smith-Williams is the safer run stopper. F.L. Bada provides a lot of pass rush potential, and he shows it in preseason games. He shows it in practice. There's a reason he gets run with the ones a lot when Chase Young is unavailable to practice. But another guy who's getting run with the ones, Andre Jones, our 7th round pick. He's making things very interesting. This defensive line group is crazy. The versatility, the depth. He's literally what we hoped Shaka Toney would be. Like, he seems like already today, he's what we hoped Shaka Toney would be at a certain point. Andre Jones still has a lot of room to grow, especially as far as like setting the edge and being a run defender. But even pass rush wise, he still has areas to grow and areas of opportunity. But man, this guy looks like he for sure not only make the 53-man roster, but as a situational pass rusher on obvious passing downs, third and longs and stuff like that, you may want to go ahead and start playing them not only in regular season games in general, but even starting week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals. That's the type of floor he's already given you, the type of consistency and flashes to become that really true pass rush specialist. I mean, we were hoping Shaka Toney could become that. Andre Jones looks like he already is that to an extent. Again, I'm not going to sit here and act like he's Von Miller, Khalil Mack type of TJ Watt outside linebacker, 3-4 type of guy coming in wide from the offensive line, coming straight at the quarterback, guaranteed sack made. I'm not going to act like he's that already, but he's showing better flashes than even KJ Henry, who I'm a big fan of. KJ Henry looks good enough to make this 53-man roster, especially as a 5th round pick. I mean, releasing a 5th round pick is crazy. That's how we ended up with John Ridgeway from the Cowboys. Again, this defensive line depth is insane because you still have Casey Tuhill, who's really productive. Maybe you can end up releasing him and like maybe another team won't take him, but I'm pretty sure somebody will end up taking him. But they're less likely to take him than some of these other guys because James Smith-Williams started all of last season up to the point that Chase Young was healthy enough to start. F.A. Obata, again, shows ridiculous flashes that if you cut him, somebody's definitely getting him. Then Andre Jones, I mean, maybe because he's a 7th round pick, maybe people don't know about him, but he's been flashing so much. I just want him to play. Forget the strategy of who you can cut and hope that another team doesn't pick him up just simply because he's a 7th round pick. Nah, he's so good. I just want him to play regardless of which strategy you're working on. And then John Ridgeway, there's no way we can cut him. As productive as he was last year with his unique skill set of being a run stuffer, a true nose tackle that can eat up double teams and allow Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Chase Young, and Montez Sweat do what they got to do in one-on-ones and even sometimes go and block because he's just that much of a black hole in the middle of the defensive line. And I mean, you hope Phidarian Mathis can stay healthy. That's why you can't cut John Ridgeway, because is Phidarian Mathis even going to be able to stay healthy enough to play? Imagine cutting somebody like John Ridgeway. Imagine cutting John Ridgeway because you assume Phidarian Mathis can stay healthy and you just want to keep Andre Jones, KJ Henry, F.A. Obata, and Casey Tuhill that bad. And then John Ridgeway goes somewhere else, balls out, and then Phidarian Mathis ends up getting hurt again. Like, come on, dog. I would feel so stupid. So this defensive line, man, I don't envy the guys that have to make the decisions for who we end up keeping for this defensive line right now, because it's absolutely insane how much talent we have from top to bottom. I mean, we still haven't even talked about Chase Young and Montez Sweat. We're just talking about depth right now. We haven't talked about Jonathan Allen or Deron Payne. That's an automatic 4. Behind that, we have another 6-7 names that all have the right to make this roster. I do not envy who has to make these roster cuts for the receiving group, the secondary, and now the defensive line as well. Number 5, is the offensive line actually better for real now? Everything I've seen and heard from practices lately, they sound like it. Now, again, I've already said, I've admitted in previous videos that a lot of the hate that we gave the offensive line after watching that Browns preseason game live, like our initial reactions, and I even said this in my breakdown, I'm about to go look at the All-22 to see if they were really that bad. Once I got to the All-22, I saw that they actually weren't that bad. Andrew Wiley was sort of as bad as it looked because he definitely got beat, had some holding penalties and things like that. He was the reason for that safety. But other than that, he actually had some pretty decent plays, but he was still by far our worst offensive lineman that day. Charles Leno, outside of like 2-3 plays, pretty much won all of his snaps. Chris Paul looked really good out there. Nick Gates looked pretty good and consistent. Looked like he did everything I would hope a starting center could do for us. And then Samuel Cosme looked like an all-pro out there. He won every snap it looked like he had, in my opinion. And then after that, going into the Ravens joint practices, the first day the offensive line had a good day, but then the second day I'm hearing from Ravens and Commanders reporters and every clip that I've seen so far that the offensive line looks like, if anything, they beat up on the Ravens defensive line. They were more physical and just had the better day. Outside of one-on-ones are weird, so I don't try to judge that as to put too much stock into that. But when it came to team stuff, our offensive line was better than the Ravens defensive line. And Sam Howell had a lot of time to distribute the ball and do what he had to do. And he had a better day than Lamar Jackson that second day. I don't even think it was necessarily close. Lamar Jackson went like 11 for 26. Sam Howell was way better than that, completed more passes than he didn't. And I feel like the offensive line was a big reason for that. And so is this offensive line actually better? I need to see it with my own eyes, this preseason game against the Ravens. Are you actually good? Can you actually protect Sam Howell long enough for us to actually do a lot of the plays that we want to do? And then speaking of quarterback, man, number 6, I want to see Sam Howell, with my own eyes, looked like QB1. He's been named the starting QB for the Week 1 game against the Arizona Cardinals, our presumed 2023 starter. Hopefully, our franchise quarterback for indefinitely. But he's been named QB1. Look like it today or tomorrow against the Ravens. Look like it. Please, like, go out there and look like you have control of the offense. I already broke down all of the like little nuanced stuff like footwork, going through his progressions, accuracy, touch on passes, knowing when to throw it with a rocket or a laser, knowing when to throw it with soft touch, being able to hit the middle of the field as a short quarterback is a huge plus, being able to hit the sideline. We couldn't do that with Taylor Heineke. Those little out routes to the sideline, that's something Sam Howell can do that quarterbacks we've had here previous years just couldn't. Normally that would be a pick six for a Taylor Heineke or even a Kirk Cousins. With Sam Howell, that's a 12-yard completion. There's nothing you could do about it. There's just so many little things that not only does he already do right, but I think he has the potential to also do correctly and be consistent with. I've already broke down all of the little stuff. I don't even want to really get into the little stuff for this Ravens game. I just want him to go out there and look like the starting quarterback, look like our potential franchise quarterback, put some points up there, convert third downs, convert a fourth down if you have to, like he did against the Browns. Look comfortable doing it, throws on the run, scanning the field, going through progressions, all of that. I want to look like a professional quarterback out there. I want him to ID potential blitzers, change their protections at the line, pre-snap reads, all of that type of stuff. Go out there and do that, and I will be very happy and optimistic about going into this Week 1 game against the Cardinals. I already am, but all he could do is just raise the stock. Because I honestly, even if Sam Howell for some crazy reason has a bad game against the Ravens, which I highly doubt he would, doesn't really change much. He's still our starting quarterback. Maybe he had a bad series or two, but I don't even think the starters are going to play much. I hope they do, but I don't think the starters are going to play much against the Ravens, and I doubt they even play at all our third preseason game. So this is probably our last chance to see Sam Howell before we have to go out there and play the Arizona Cardinals Week 1 of a real regular season game where wins and losses actually count and matter. So please go out there and put a lot of fans' stress to rest. Go ahead and take a lot of weight off of a lot of fans' shoulders and put them at ease and show that you are our franchise quarterback. Because a lot of us Commanders fans that love Sam Howell's potential and think he can take us to the playoffs this year are still going back and forth with other Commanders fans that don't believe in him just yet. Please go out there and make everybody a believer. I don't even care about the national media, man. Forget them. Like, it is what it is with them. But other Commanders fans, Sam Howell, can you at least just show them that you are that guy? Moving on to number 7, the guy that's going to help somehow look like that guy or even just become that guy. Eric Bieniemy's bag looks like it's getting deeper, man. So far, these last couple of practices, that man's been getting a little frisky with the play caller. We're seeing jet sweeps with Terry McLaurin. We're seeing wildcat in direct snaps to Curtis Samuel. Sam Howell lined up out wide as a receiver and actually the ball like getting thrown to him. I hope we don't do that in the regular season game because I don't want our guy getting hurt. But like Eric Bieniemy starting to really dig deep in his bag, man, doing misdirection screens where it looks like the whole offense is going this way. We fake it that way and then throw a screen this way so everything's wide open. The defense isn't ready. I'm telling you, man, these manufactured touches, the ability to get the ball into our best players' hands, to get guys open even more than their talent already naturally does. I'm super excited about Eric Bieniemy, man. I mean, the fact that he was already getting into his bag at that point in practice where fans were still allowed to go record games, upload what they saw on Twitter via like text or even upload the clip themselves. The fact that he was showing that stuff in that situation, and then as of yesterday, August 19th, we are shutting everything down away from the fans so that we can truly start to work on what we really plan on doing for the offense in game, start game planning for the Arizona Cardinals, like doing actual plays we plan on using in game and stuff like that. The fact that he was getting that deep into his bag in that portion where everybody can see it, opponents can see it, anybody could just go to a Commanders practice and see what we're doing. Now that we're shutting it down, no outside reporters, no reporters, even like Commanders guys like John Comm are not allowed to tweet about what they saw at practice, record clips and upload it. No fans allowed. Now that we're shutting it down from the outside world, imagine how much deeper that bag is about to get off of the taste that we got the past couple of practices where our offense already looked like it was a little bit smarter and more creative than it ever was for Scott Turner during the open part of practice. Imagine what closed practice is about to be like, and imagine what we're about to bring out there to the Arizona Cardinals Week 1. We've already seen like weeks ago in practice the little Kansas City Chiefs plays with a little shuffle pass to Curtis Samuel hidden behind the offensive line for a touchdown at goal line situations. It's about to be really fun. Eric Bieniemy's bag is about to be crazy this year, man. I'm super excited. The talent here is phenomenal. I mean, you could easily argue Pat Mahomes is a better quarterback than Sam Howell, even though I wouldn't sleep on Sam Howell being a really good quarterback, but I don't ever see him being the best quarterback in the NFL. That's just hard to predict. Nobody even saw Pat Mahomes doing that coming out of college. After he, similar trajectory, just like Sam Howell, started the final game of a season and then became the starter the next season. That's literally the same pathway that Sam Howell is going through right now. He has the arm, he has the mobility and all of that. Again, I'm not saying he's Pat Mahomes, but even with Pat Mahomes, they didn't say he was Pat Mahomes. And then on top of that, we don't have a Travis Kelce, but we do have a better receiving core. I definitely feel like our running back core is more talented as well. So, man, I wouldn't be surprised if Eric Bieniemy is allowed to get even deeper in his bag with this offense that he was for Kansas City. I'm really excited. Then number 8, the thing you need to watch for is Chris Rodriguez pass protection, man. I've been hearing it over and over again. He's our best pass protector already. We already know how he gets busy in the run game. He's one of those guys that's always going to be better in game than practice, because in practice, it's hard to really tell how good he is because we're not really allowed to like hit each other like that, because we're trying to protect each other. We're teammates. His best trait is tackle breaking, contact balance. He's going to rip through arm tackles. You got to wrap this guy up square, and it's going to probably take more than one person to bring him down most times. So him in game is always going to be way better than practice when people actually have to tackle him. I mean, you saw that Browns preseason game. The blocking was very on point, but even on top of that, he was running his tail off. But I've been hearing day in, day out from multiple reporters that he's already our best pass protector. And Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson have improved as pass protectors since they were drafted to the Commanders. But Chris Rodriguez came in day one as already our best pass protector between those three. I got to see it with my own eyes. That's like something really random and small. I'm really going to be keying in on in this upcoming Ravens preseason game, because it matters. Because if he's the best pass protector, that increases his chances of being on the field on third downs. If you plan on throwing the ball to the running backs, Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson obviously will give you the better option. But if you need the running back to stay back and truly block for the quarterback, right now Chris Rodriguez sounds like he's our guy. He's probably going to get some run on third downs, where a lot of people think that's Antonio Gibson's down, like he's going to be the only one out there. Maybe some Brian Robinson, because he looks like a better route runner and catcher than most people thought he would be coming out of Alabama. Don't be surprised if Chris Rodriguez sees the field more often than you think, just simply because he can help protect Sam Howell better than Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson can. So that's definitely something we need to watch out for. Number 9, will things be chippy? Will things be heated because of the Danny Johnson, Mark Andrews situation? If you don't know, I've already updated y'all on this in multiple videos so far, but if you haven't heard, Danny Johnson has a sprained rotator cuff right now because of the Mark Andrews body slam in that fight in the first day of practice against the Ravens. He looks good. Looks like he's able to practice, and they're just being overly cautious right now, letting him just sit to the side and chill. Maybe if he were a rookie and he really needed these snaps to make sure that he can make the team, maybe they would play him, but since he's pretty much a safe 53-man roster lock for the most part, and he's already a veteran, he knows Jack Del Rio's defense, he's been in it for a few years already, it's just not really worth putting him out there to make a small injury worse. But still, I wouldn't be surprised if the Commander players try to get some get back on Mark Andrews, get some cheap shots on him or something. I'm not encouraging it, but just watch how chippy this game is. This may be chippier than a typical preseason game where guys are just going through the motion and they're just worried about themselves trying to make the team, and that's most important. Nah, don't be surprised, especially starter-wise, some guys like really get in Mark Andrews' face and try to get him out of his game and stuff like that. I would not be surprised. And watch Cameron Curl lock him up some more like he did that second day of Ravens joint practice. And then lastly, 10th, speaking of Danny Johnson, team health. First of all, on one end, how does everybody that's already hurt look going into this game? For Darian Mathis, last time we saw him, he was in a boot. Is he healthy enough to play against the Ravens Monday night, tomorrow night? Chase Young, Logan Thomas, Dax Milne, Kendall Fuller, Charles Leno, all guys that have missed practice recently. How healthy are they going into this game? Are they healthy enough to play? I keep saying, the way Ron Rivera and company make it sound, it seems like if we had to play a game that really mattered today, everybody except for, I'm not sure about for Darian Mathis and Dax Milne, would be able to play. Like Logan Thomas, Chase Young, Charles Leno, all of those guys will be good to go, ready to start if this were a regular season game that we needed to win. But they're just being overly cautious, just siding with the air of caution right now, and just like, when in doubt, they won't play because the veterans, they don't need the snaps that bad. So we'll see how that goes going into the game. And then even during the game, just monitor and make sure that nobody gets hurt. Whatever positive energy you got to throw towards our team, I don't want us having any more injuries stacking up than we already have leaving this Ravens game. So let's go out there, let's be great, but let's also be safe and be healthy leaving the game. Watch out for that health part as well, man, because that's big time, man. We do all these roster predictions, these roster projections. We do these schedule and wins and loss projections and things like that. You don't calculate injuries when it comes to that. You don't account for injuries and guys being lost for season, guys missing a couple of weeks here and there. So, man, can we just please stay healthy, bro? Because everybody's doubting us and saying 6.5 wins, obviously take the under. I'm thinking we have an easy chance to win 10 games this season, but you got to be healthy enough to do that. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Do you agree or disagree with any of my points? Please stiff arm that like button if you enjoyed this video, if you learned anything, if I helped you in any way. It's big time for me. It's free for y'all. It's really quick for y'all. And it means the world to me. So please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button so you get updates on all of the content, anything I'm coming out with, man. Anything burgundy and gold, whether it's live streams during the game, previews like this video before games. I'm gonna do this the entire regular season. Reviews after the game. I'm gonna do that the entire regular season as well. And anything in between, Rico reports, film sessions. I'm working on the rookie film sessions right now, but don't forget that during the regular season, I'm gonna be doing film sessions for guys like Emmanuel Forbes again to see what they look like at the NFL level. How was their debut, their first game against the Arizona Cardinals and stuff like that. A lot of our rookies, a lot of our free agents and stuff like that, I'm gonna be doing film sessions on throughout the regular season as well on a game by game basis. Sam Howell film sessions during the regular season, all of that, man. So much content to come out with. I'm still working on like coming out with 3 to 4 videos a day, even without us having the training camp updates, because there's just so much other stuff to talk about, again, like the sponsorships that the Commanders have gained, breaking news type of stuff like that, random clips of the national media talking about us either in a good light or a bad one, doubting us or showing us love. Just so much content. Stay tuned and make sure you hit the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time that everything I just said, you'll get a notification every time I release those videos rather than randomly or like days later after I release it. Make sure you hit that bell next to the subscription button. I don't think y'all understand how big that is. So, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. I was able to get into a lot of the comments yesterday. I literally set aside like 4 or 5 hours to reply to as many comments as I could, and I'm still trying to work on that and not let it pile up. So make sure you get in that comment section. I'm gonna try to do my best to read and reply to every comment that I can. I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.